the end of the day, I don't want Anna to be suffering. I don't want things to be
I
bad
hope.
for
I mean,
her.
I hope that she finds the peace she's looking for. Right now, we got a Thelma Louise situation, but there ain't no cliff. They're just driving around in circles. Like, I don't know where we're going, but they've made a blood pact, and like, you know, I feel like we're along for the ride. And
You know what? I want that metaphor to be just how we remember this entire moment in history. That's more true than any other analysis. That's it. All right.
Try not to say my friends' names publicly.
Matt Lee.
I take my privacy extremely seriously, and she knew that, but she still chose to put me on blast anyway because it feeds into.
I don't think it's the poly market payout. It's that Jank has that's all Jank has right now. I mean, it's got to be worth something. Otherwise, I don't see what's the point. They're being completely disrespected by their own supposed new friend contemporaries who are like a little bit too extreme for them, I guess. Like Laura Loomer, Matt Walsh. They're all openly saying like, nah, this guy's a traitor and a cock. Fuck him. He never is allowed to go around us. Plus, he's a weird, gross weirdo who like had an entire video on jerking horses off. That's not worth it to us. Fuck him. Stay away. And then there's other people, I guess, like Megyn Kelly, who were like, yeah, let's open the door to this conversation. We're happy to have this. And, I'm sure Ben Shapiro's opening the door. And then you could, I mean, the Dave Rubin thing did not work out as Pierce was trying it. But I'm sure there's other venues they can go on. And Tim Pool's going to be happy to have Cenk back on multiple times. And you can try and carve yourself out as this Turning Point USA, neo-progressive alliance. The basically the red brown alliance is trying to be recreated. Jimmy Dore failed spectacularly at that. I mean, maybe he went too hard. Maybe he was trying to do it with the Proud Boys, and then there was a lot of people on the left that were like, oh no, that's a racist extremist group started by a Canadian far right figure named Gavin McInnes. We don't want to ally with them. And he's like, oh no, I don't know what you've heard about the Proud Boys. I hear they're anti-cop. So how about the Boogaloo Boys? Do you like them? Why don't we could align with the Boogaloo Boys instead? Let's do that. There's gay people in the Boogaloo Boys. Did you know that? And did you know they love comedy and memes? The whole thing's an igloo, and it's about Electric Boogaloo 2, the return of that. So are you interested? So whatever they're trying to do, I mean, maybe.
An existing right-wing meme about who I am. But
Sure.
I gotta stop talking about myself because it's really about them. Sorry, Francesca.
No. I mean, you didn't need to do all that, but it's fine that you did because again, it was you were personally attacked by her. I'm not going to throw up the tweet, but to continue a little bit and to close, I think the other thing that's very revelatory for me and has been been very upsetting, and the reason why I asked her to come on the show is because Cenk came on the show, and even though he had been making the rounds on right-wing outlets, Patrick Bet-David, and going, on to the TPUSA conference and wanting to have a beer with Charlie Kirk, he did come on my show. He did go on Mark Lamont Hill shows. He went on Brian Tyler Cohen's show. He actually faced some supposed, some leftists, some progressives. And instead, we have smatterings of where Anna's been over the last 6 months to a year.
Holy shit, I haven't seen the compilation, but when you have it, when it's all laid out before you, like, Jesus Christ, yeah, I guess Glenn Beck is there, Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is the one where he was actually asking about Dave Rubin and being like, so you basically accused Dave Rubin of being a grifter who was doing what he was doing because he was taking vast amounts of money from think tanks funded by the Koch brothers, and the TYT kicked him out because of that reason. How do you feel about that now? And she was basically like, well, I mean, maybe I misspoke, and then everyone's like, oh my God, you've almost Dave Rubin. You're almost there. Obviously, Megyn Kelly, going with one of the worst and most extreme transphobes, operating today. But not that, anything is unavailable for the turf to fucking whatever this is pipeline.
To longer than that. She's been making...
Sam, thank you for the other $10. It feels like Cenk is the last person on the train platform to fit into the MAGA bus, but no one is making room for him. Well, I think, there are people making room for Anna, that's for sure. And like I said, Tim Pool is I think Tim Pool and Charlie Kirk are the two ones that are basically embracing Cenk, or at least trying to see what UC has to them, right? He's a currency. So it's basically how much can we squeeze that's left out of the potential radicalization of a bunch of TYT members. So can we get TYT members to start thinking that maybe Turning Point USA isn't so bad? Can we get them to start thinking maybe Trump isn't so bad? Maybe Trump isn't evil. What he is he's very, very willing to do whatever MAGA says. So it's a populist movement. The people are in power. See, the MAGA people get to determine what Trump does, not the other way around, which... that's exactly how it is, actually. Trump just does whatever the fuck he wants, and MAGA are like, he will be our God King. Anything he does, that he is benevolent.
The rounds on right-wing news with obviously these are obviously thumbnails. So I'm not saying this is exactly what she said, but she does make the argument that the left is the biggest problem and that they are the ones who've made her leave the left. What I Got Wrong with Glenn Beck, how the left is alienating its own people with Chris Williamson, who's sort of, again, standard YouTube, mass account. Why I Left the Left with some, what did that health influencer Jillian lady? Obviously, got to go on Piers Morgan. Dems made a deal with the devil. Anna Kasparian slams her old party. Anna on why she's calling out the lack of self-reflection by the Dem side of the left.
Is she was on a TV show called The Biggest Loser. Yeah, that's true. I wasn't really familiar with her or her show, but effectively she came into the podcasting scene and the political podcasting scene as more of a centrist, as like, an open and proud lesbian who's in a relationship with another woman, who does not believe in progressives or leftism or liberalism, but does not believe in far right or right wing or conservative or Republican ideology, a centrist, if you will, that is going to be able to have important conversations with important people. Who's one of those important people? Matt Walsh. We got Matt Walsh on the show. Tell me, Matt Walsh, how do you feel about these topics as an unbiased spectator? Are you going to now be able to have a nuanced conversation about some of them?
With Megyn Kelly, I don't have a problem with calling out the lack of self-reflection from the left. I don't have a problem with talking about purity politics. I don't have a problem with talking even about some of the issues that, again, she thinks are, intractable, like, again, crime stats being up when they're actually not, homelessness. It's like, whoa, what do we do? All these Dems are just getting their hands in the pile of homelessness services. And that's why, I am for homelessness services, but these Democrats, that's why I'm voting for Rick Caruso. I'm telling you, it's okay to have these conversations, but where you are having them shows a lot about not
Right.
just your ideology, but your willingness to sell your former colleagues down the river and the broader.
If you leave the left by your own measure, don't presume to speak for the left. Well, it's very telling when people use that as a currency, and it's very clear, right? Like, what do you bring to the table? Oh, I'm a former leftist. I was a media figure. I was an advocate for things like leftist causes. And now I've realized that, in fact, it is the left who have lost their minds. And all y'all, you were correct the whole time. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm going to validate all of your beliefs. I'm going to shit on the left, and then I'm going to be able to agree with the parts of the clips that you show me without outwardly just alienating all of my previous audience. I don't want to piss off my old audience completely because that would be a disaster. So I got to play this really tightrope game right now where half of me is going to put one foot into the other side, keep one foot firmly planted over there, and be like, well, I still care a lot about these causes. I do have to start calling out all these horrifying things the Democrats do too on your behalf, and let's see if I can use that to increase my power. And it's great because I can do that all while using slurs again. We get to use the slurs and the naughty words, and we get to be racist openly because it's fun, and we don't get to hide and pretend like these things aren't real. They are real. They've always been real to all of us.
Movement as a whole, because they're using you. They're using you. And are you cool with being used like that?
Well, I think
Yes.
it's obvious. I think that clearly, she's not on the left anymore, right? She's like unassociated or something, as like the announcement that she made. And so I don't understand why she has to keep pretending if she isn't doing what Dave Rubin, what other Why I Left the Left people have done in the past, which is essentially elevating your profile and going on these right-wing shows while validating all of their talking points and saying that you're representative of the left when you're not. Piers Morgan does this all the time on his show where he says he's a liberal
Yes.
and then he says the
I'm
furthest
basically a
right.
liberal.
Right. It's a very, very lucrative way to operate in media. It's short. The shelf life is not great, and you may cash in. Like Dave Rubin has made millions, but his views don't do that well because he had to eventually admit he was a conservative and not the last liberal. So she's
That's
going
right.
down that path, it seems,
They were like, ew, why are you still gay then?
yeah,
It's like, damn it.
yeah. But what's upsetting is like I wanted TYT to succeed, and I want to try to find a way to elevate all these other leftist channels. They're doing such great work because this isn't a competitive thing. For me, this is a collaborative thing, and
Yes.
I really do want I wanted and believed in. That's why I wanted to work there and why I looked up to Jank my whole life. The idea of a left-wing network that would have the reach that a whatever how many million subscribers they have that would provide. That's something that I was really excited about, but I think they really lost their way. They tried to expand way too quickly. They took all that investment money. They hired a bunch of people. They tried to do entertainment shows and everything. And then it was like all these rounds of layoffs. I'm in New York. I'm on the road. I'm hearing, oh, they're not treating their staff that great. Oh, is there a unionization effort that's happening that they're trying to tamp down? Wait, why did X person get fired when that person was leading the unionization effort?
Right.
I'm hearing about these closed door meetings that they have where there are lawyers that are kind of intimidating
Mm-hmm.
folks. And that was around the time when I'd heard about this that I made the decision to leave the show, because it seemed to me that like there were some overstretched finances and also a lack of like real belief in a left-wing project. And I said, I learned really to trust my gut in that way. But I do just want to say one thing about that as well, is like um there Anna also implied in that tweet that because that we would be the reason that they would have to lay off employees, and that's
Yes,
why they
yes,
took that poly market sponsorship,
yes.
because other people have been critical of them. I'm just like truly in awe of the inability to self-reflect or take a step back from one's own ego to say that it's everyone else around them that's the problem.
Yes.
Everybody else is just trying to make money off of them. Everybody else is grifting. It's not us. We don't have to look internally about our own decisions and life choices and our own like extreme anger that's off-putting in and of itself for the
Sure.
show. Like I
Sure.
tuned in a few years ago and I was just like, I
Clean up
can't
your
watch this
room.
shit anymore. They're just screaming
I
at the
mean, you're talking
camera.
to a
It's
stand-up
not
comic. I have to have some levity, otherwise I'll die. Like,
it's
Tigwick, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. I'd show you Chico, but he's in the other room. He's among us. He's in the presence. He's in the house. He's not out of the house, so I can say that much. But hey, 5 you just got a sub from Tigwick.
crazy.
Tigwick, thank you.
They seem very unhappy, and also it reflects in their coverage. And I don't know. I mean, look, again, it doesn't. I don't care about that but I
Clean
hope
up your
they're
room.
okay. At the end of the day, I don't want Anna to be
yeah,
suffering. I don't
of
want things to
course.
be
I hope,
bad for
I mean,
her.
I hope that she
Yeah.
finds the peace she's looking for. Right now, we got a Thelma Louise situation, but there ain't no cliff. They're just driving around in circles. Like, I don't know where we're going, but they've made a blood pact, and like, I feel like we're along for the ride. And
You know what? I want that metaphor to be just how we remember this entire moment in history. That's more true than any other analysis. That's it, all right? Stop trying to read so deeply into it. Stop trying to find out the material cause of any of
Clean
this.
up your
Stop trying
room.
to analyze it from a views perspective or a cash perspective or a Polymarket Studios perspective. It is 100% a blood pact that was made in secret, just unbeknownst to all of us. And then, yes, instead of having like a cliff that they were heading towards, they're just driving in circles, screaming belligerence over and over and over again. And then that's just basically where we're at. So that actually explains it so much better in mere seconds.
I just want to clarify, like, I've never been an employee at TYT. I've got another story for another time. There was a close call. I could have sued. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I've never been a full-time
Clean up
employee.
your
I get
room.
asked to be on and I say yes or no. I rarely say no. I don't think I'm ever going to be asked to be back on the main
Yeah.
show. I don't ever. I think that was sealed, if not after I had Mondale Robinson on, if not after I interviewed Jenk. I think probably by putting out a Curb Your Enthusiasm meme that was sealed. So but I would love to go on and actually have a robust debate like I've often floated
We
to
offered
Jenk.
them too. I mean, Sam has offered multiple times, and he
Clean
says
up your
he's a
room.
grifter, which is very funny because I have to beg Sam to buy new shirts today. Again, his shirt had a hole in the sleeve. It's like he wears the same 5. I'm sorry.
It sounds like my dad. That's the thing I'm always saying to my pops. I'm always just like, you could buy a new shirt, right? I like this one though. Yeah, but that shirt's got a hole in it. It's an important hole. It's an important hole. Dad, there's no such thing. It's just a hole. And I get it. You don't like to waste. You don't want to manufacture and consume, and the planet's, I get that. That part's noble. But also having like a non-hole in your shirt, I just think it'd be better.
He wears the same 5, and I can tell. I'm like, that's the white one with the blue marker. Like, why don't you just buy
A bonus
another
hole.
J. Crew factory shirt? I know they're like $40, dude.
They're
Just
not.
please.
They're not. They're well, I mean, feel like they're like 25 at this point. Depends on what you're buying from. But yeah, go to Marshall's. What are we doing? No, yeah, exactly. It is, and that's the other thing is like if we're doing it for clicks, it's for
Aerodynamics,
personally,
got it.
because I don't got a salary. I buy my healthcare, and I
We're in
have
the media
ever
business.
since 2016 when I started working with TYT. I took maternity leave, but not really because nobody was paying me as I had to take time off to have a child and to raise a child. Never was on
Wow.
TYT salary,
Yep.
never was offered any compensation for that time. I've given them a lot of my time. And again, I don't regret it. I've enjoyed it. But it is a stretch to ever say, I would never say they have to thank me. And I would never say that I would thank them. It's adults. It's work. That's what it is.
Also, by the way, I know there's like a lot of, I think Anna was trying to call out Emma as like, hey, by the way, Emma's family is well off. Apparently she's talked about it before, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, if anything, if that's true, if Emma comes from some kind of well off, super rich family, the fact that she's willing to use her time as a media figure or personality to advocate for people who don't have that, isn't that good? Like, would you rather people who are well off not be like, hey, by the way, I'm well off, I don't suffer? It would kind of suck if I did. So I would like if more people don't. That one's not hard. That one's pretty easy, conclusion to come to. Class trader, yeah, absolutely. A class trader is actually pretty awesome because they actually recognize that. That's totally fine. Not to mention, in a situation where you have people say like Fran, who, as a mother and someone who's working in media and someone who obviously has to deal with a lot of complications that comes with that, and would need and require, a lot of assistance in America, especially where it's basically like, if you don't have health insurance, well, then the very idea of giving birth to a child is going to be what, 10 grand? 15, that's just the birth. I mean, just the birth alone. Any follow-ups, checkups, any postpartum depression, any problems that your child has, any complications, even though there is a lot of complications that are very expensive that children can go through in their first couple of years, stuff like that. It's like, hopefully you got enough money to make it. You got enough money to do a job in internet broadcasting to be able to be one of the few voices of, women who are in these spaces. Not a lot of women who work in these spaces.
We are adults. We are not loyalists, and no one should be a loyalist to any place that they work for or
And
anyone
if
they
they
engage
expect it's unprofessional to put your personal relationships over your integrity and your journalistic integrity and how you call these things. It was upsetting for me to have to sever that tie. I don't like to do it.
Yeah.
I said I've made this joke before. Ask my exes. I stay in relationships. I stayed in relationships way too long when I shouldn't have. I don't like doing it. But I had to make that decision because I had to put my professional integrity over my personal desire to like make things right with a company that I had admired my whole life and people there who I had been like so excited to become close with or friendly with or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, what they're such that their egos are really so out of control and their egos are shattered, and I think that's part of why she's making up all these lies. But at the end of the day, no one would care about what any of these leftist streamers had to say if people weren't tapping into what they're saying. No one's distorting what you're saying. Everybody just thinks it's BS, and that's why they're clicking and why they're not really watching your show anymore.
Go support Fran and Frantifa and the Bituation Room and Francesca Fiorentini, and also support Emma Vigeland and the Majority Report.
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/theserfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.